Be still and cool in thy own mind and spirit from thy own thoughts. Then thou wilt feel the principle of God to turn thy mind to the Lord God, whereby thou wilt receive God's strength and power, from whence life comes. Whereby thou wilt receive God's strength to allay all blustering storms and tempests. Be still and cool in thy own mind and spirit from thy own thoughts. Then thou wilt feel the principle of God to turn thy mind to the Lord God, whereby thou wilt receive God's strength and power, from whence life comes. Whereby thou wilt receive God's strength to allay all blustering storms and tempests. Good evening, friends. So nice to be here. That quotation from George Fox is my first attempt to put a quotation to melody so I could remember it. I was having a bit of a rough time and was feeling pretty down, and I just happened to see that quote and thought I need to memorize this, and I knew that putting things to music can help you seal it into your mind. And it was later that I found out that Fox wrote that in a letter to the daughter of Oliver Cromwell. He was known as a healer, and Cromwell asked him to visit his daughter, who was suffering from either some kind of depression or illness, and he couldn't go to her, so he wrote this letter, and the word is that it helped, what he said. So that's how this whole project started with me, of putting quotations, early quotations to melodies so I could remember them.
And we're really glad you did. So welcome to Lake Erie Yearly Meeting.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here in my home territory. We've known each other for a while and worked together. And tell us about that a little bit.
Well, I first met Joann at Pendle Hill at a wisdom school that I was helping Cynthia Bourgeot lead with. She's very much a supporter of these Quaker quotations in song, and very much a proponent of the Quaker faith. And we've done a number of wisdom schools with her at Pendle Hill. And Joann came to one of them, and we had a walk together and a private conversation, and she really served as a minister to me at that time. And so I knew that about her gifts, and I found out she was with School of the Spirit. And then we bumped into each other again in the Participating in God's Power program, which is a program of the School of the Spirit that I did during the pandemic and shortly before and after. And then I was asked to be a guest teacher for the second version of that, and Joann is as well.
Yeah.
And so we've gotten to drive together to New York a couple of times. And when I found out she was at Lake Erie, that this was her yearly meeting, I asked her to do this with me. And I was so glad that she said yes, because it makes it so much more comfortable to have a conversation with someone.
So that's the first time we met in person. You just described, but I really knew you a long time before that, and I wonder if how many of you did too. I knew her for years while she was singing with me in the car. Do any of you know Paulette's recordings? Let's just see who's familiar. Okay, it's actually going to be a new experience for quite a few of these folks. Paulette's been singing in the peace and justice movements all of her adult life, really. And then you actually first put together a children's album.
That was
Circle.
Come Join the Circle, Lesson Songs for Peacemaking. It's going to be in the bookstore.
But this phase of her Quaker wisdom kind of chanting part really took off in 2010 when you released a CD called Timeless Quaker Wisdom in Plain Song. And that was an example of the plain song. And I found this, and I was driving for work someplace those days, and I would just put it in the thing, and I'd sing along, and I'd hit rewind, and I'd sing along again, and I'd hit rewind, and eventually I could turn the volume down and see if I could keep up with her when I couldn't listen as much. So the songs have really been a source of joy for me, and a way to really embed some of this Quaker wisdom in my, I don't know, some part of my brain that isn't frontal cortex. I don't know where they reside, but it's capable of coming to me in worship as a message, or when I need it, it rises now. I know it. It's like part of me. So
yeah, for me too. They started coming in Quaker worship, and I almost felt like I was channeling Fox sometimes, you know, it just, you never know. All of a sudden it's there.
So on one of these long rides to New York, we settled down with the theme for this sessions, our friends together, outpourings of the Spirit. And what did that bring up for you when you started thinking that theme through, Paulette?
I think the first thing it brought up was, well, to have an outpouring, you need an inpouring. And so how does the inpouring come? And so that sort of framed what we decided to do, that we would start with chants, that quotations that have to do with the getting ready, what helps the inpouring, and then what's sort of the manifestation or the testimony that shows from the outpouring. So that's what it triggered.
Mm-hmm. And Fox discovered this inpouring experientially, and some of his words really told you about that.
Yeah,
power of the Lord. That he encouraged early friends to prepare for this outpouring by listening to that inpouring, and you have some words that you found over and over in this journal.
Oh,
the power of
yes. I read that the most common phrase in Fox's writings was, "The power of the Lord came over me." And that's, you know, when he talks about the healings that happened for him, spontaneous healings, and you all know probably that there was a book of miracles that got squelched because they didn't need any more harassment coming down, but he had a lot of experiences of miracles. And but it was experientially from his practice where he figured out that by letting go of thoughts and going deep within, that these kinds of openings would come.
Yeah. And so we're going to sing, you are going to sing for us next, Stand Still. And talk to us about where that grew out of your reading of Fox and Ambler.
Yeah, I was fortunate to spend 9 months at Pendle Hill as the artist in residence. I was the first one that they had as somebody that wasn't a visual artist, but a singer and a songwriter. And I got to take a week-long class from Rex Ambler. I'd like to see a show of hands of who is familiar with Rex Ambler. Okay,
good.
So raise your hand if you have actually participated in the guided meditation called Experimental Light. Okay, a number of people, good. Well, I got to have a whole week with him there, learning how he came up with this guided meditation for contemporary friends based on his readings of Fox. And he read Fox over and over again, trying to see what was it about those early friends that they were having such amazing experiences within and leadings to do this, a lot of direct guidance. And he was having certain problems in his life and was going to Quaker meeting and felt like he wasn't getting any guidance. And so that's when he really started searching. And he decided that, yeah, there were directives from Fox. And so this next quote that I want to sing is sort of a summing up of what he saw as the directives of here's what you do. It's still sort of difficult and challenging, but it's really nice to have a real simple way to conceptualize it. And I'm going to say that some of you already are familiar with this album, so feel free to sing along. I'm going to be singing solo for a lot of the chants that are more, they're not really, some of them aren't really chants, what we call them plain song. But feel free to sing along with me if you know it. And then at certain points, we're all going to sing along on some of the easier ones.
I'm going to try not to sing along. You can sing along.
Stand still in that which is pure, after ye see yourselves, and then mercy comes in. After thou seest thy thoughts and temptations, do not think, but submit, and then power comes in. Stand still in that which shows and discovers, and there does strength immediately come. And stand still in the light, and submit to it, and the other will be hushed and gone, and then contentment comes. We'll sing it one more time. Stand still in that which is pure, after ye see yourselves, and then mercy comes in. After thou seest thy thoughts and temptations, do not think, but submit, and then power comes in. Stand still in that which shows and discovers, and there doth strength immediately come. And stand still in the light, and submit to it, and the other will be hushed and gone, and then contentment comes.
Paulette knows this, but I'll tell the rest of you that this is probably my favorite of the whole album. And tonight I begged her to put this one in the playlist because it has been for me a real teaching tool, because it shows me that there's a sequence. Like first you stand still in the light and let it show you what is. And then after you see your thoughts and temptations, what comes is mercy. Mercy for yourself. You give yourself permission to be who you really are instead of who you think you ought to be, or you're trying to be, or you haven't pulled off yet, or whatever. And then he knows me well enough to know, Joann, do not think. Don't try to figure out what to do about this, what is. Instead, submit, turn it over, ask for guidance. And then power comes in. And I find that to be true. Like when I ask for guidance and the guidance comes, I'm usually stunned to realize it is something I have the power to do. And then the next step is, so I have to decide to do it. So then I have to give myself to the power, and then strength comes in, he says. And then after I do all of that, contentment. So it's usually a good kind of diagnostic for me. Where am I stuck? Am I not admitting what really is? Am I not asking for guidance? I got the guidance, but I'm not doing what it said. It's really a wonderful tool, and I thank you for putting it in my heart.
Yeah, and I'll just share real briefly. One of the times that it helped me was when I got assigned my first teacher's aide job after coming back from Kendall Hill with a deer tick in my head and couldn't work a regular job anymore like that and like I had been doing. So I was assigned to a new teacher who was like about 22 years old and a sports jock, and it's really very authoritarian, and he was teaching little third graders, and it didn't seem like he had any experience with children, and he was not about to listen to me. And I had been doing a lot of training of teachers in conflict resolution and how to do peacemaking in the classroom. So I was kind of under his thumb and feeling really, really upset. And I did an experiment with light around it, asking for guidance of how to deal with the situation. And when I do experiment with light, I often get images, and they don't come in necessarily a sequence, but the image that I got was of a grandmother taking a little boy by the hand and showing him around about how things are done. And what it did for me was make me realize I could be this guy's grandmother. I'm way old enough to be his grandmother, and I'm being intimidated and feeling really shut down. And so I went in with a different attitude, like thinking of him as my grandson. And I'm not saying that it changed everything and made everything perfect, but it made it so much more relaxing to me. And I think because of that, he was able to relax somewhat with me as well. So I like this because it can really show you practical things in your life. So much meditation isn't necessarily about finding really some guidance for the real things you're dealing with in your life, but this particular thing is, yeah.
Thanks for the story. So one of the things I think is hard, though, in our day, especially with the explosion of, everywhere around us are opinions and facts and issues, and just knowledge is coming at us from everywhere, and it's hard to tell what is my inner guidance. I get pulled by this idea or that idea, and settling into what really is the guidance that I hear can be a hard piece of work.
I think there's just so much information coming to us, period, and we have access to not just information, but access to cars that let us go anywhere we want at any time. So there's just a ton of decisions making. We're just in a state of society where we're just bombarded, and I think a lot of us are overwhelmed. We can hear what's going on in every part of the world at any time of day. So it's hard. It's hard to make the time, I think, to really try to go deep and block it all out. I know I have a hard time with setting that time, that routine for meditation. But one of the dreams, sometimes it comes in dreams for me. Raise your hand if you've ever felt like you had guidance come in a dream or something. Yeah. And Marcel Martin wrote a wonderful article in Friends Journal not too long ago about the history of Quakers with dreams, and I really encourage you to read it. But one thing that happened to me, so after I left Kendall Hill, I was hanging around Philadelphia for about 10 more months doing programs in Quaker schools with my children's songs and doing peacemaking classes. And but I was feeling, sort of forlorn, and did I do the right thing? But I was doing experiment with light in the morning and practice by myself and using the CD with Rex Ambler on it. And one morning I woke up and I just was lying there awake, and I had my eyes closed and sort of in that dozy state. And suddenly I saw an image of a bird with a yellow beak, and it opened its beak and had a pearl on its tongue. And it said telepathically to me, I've been holding this pearl here for a long time, and it's time for it to be revealed. Well, if that wasn't cryptic, like, well, I don't know what this is about. And Then I got up to do the experiment with light and I turned on the CD player. Well, it was Ambler's voice, but it wasn't the usual thing I was used to listening to. The first words that he said was, "Seek the pearl within." Right after I had this image of this robin, I decided it was a robin. And that set off about a whole next 6 months of coming into robins constantly, like even like a stare down with a robin, like maybe a foot away from me, and so many synchronicities with robins. And finally I got a hold of Teddy Andrews' book called Animal Speak and asked, and looked up and said, what does robin mean? I don't know if you're familiar with that book, but it's tells about the medicine from a Native American perspective, what animals messages they can bring to you. And said if robin's coming to you, it can mean that you have a song to sing out loud to the world and it's time to do it. And by the
Not
time
that cryptic.
by the time I had that figured out, I was already putting these Quaker quotes to song, and I was running across the word pearl constantly in Fox's writings. So I thought, oh, maybe this is guidance, So that's an example, I think, of dreams or dreamlike states.
Yeah. So sing us about that. Keep within.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm going to sing the long version first. This is another Fox quote. And then I'm going to do a shorter one with you all singing along with me. Keep within. And when they say, look here or look, there is Christ, go not forth, for Christ is within you. And those who try to draw your minds away from the teaching inside you are opposed to Christ. For the measure's within, and the light of God is within, and the pearl is within you, though hidden. Keep within. And when they say, look here or look, there is Christ, go not forth, for Christ is within you. And those who try to draw your minds away from the teaching inside you are opposed to Christ. For the measure's within, and the light of God is within, and the pearl is within you, though hidden.
It's so precious to have the affirmation that the pearl, the truth, what we really want is within you. And that all those voices that try to tell you where to go, they're pulling you away from your access to the truth. It's very lovely.
Yeah. So let's sing the shorter version, which I came out with 2 albums of Quaker quotes, and I put the shorter one on the next album. So that's much more singable. Okay, so it goes like this. I'll sing it once through, and then you can join me as you feel ready. Keep within, for the light of God is within, and the pearl is within you, though hidden. Keep within, for the light of God is within, and the pearl is within you, though hidden. Keep within, for the light of God is within, and the pearl is within you, though hidden. And when you feel ready, try to break your eyes away from the words. Keep within, for the light of God is within, and the pearl is within you, though hidden. Keep within, for the light of God is within, and the pearl is within you, though hidden. Keep within, for the light of God is within, and the pearl is within you, though hidden. Keep within, for the light of God is within, and the pearl is within you, though hidden. Keep within, for the light of God is within, and the pearl is within you, though hidden.
Okay, thank you. You've got our feet wet with a few chants. Let's talk for a little bit about how you discovered this medium. How did you come across the idea of chant, and what draws you to it?
Well, I think initially it's because I grew up Catholic before Vatican II. And I grew up singing Latin masses, the Requiem. I still have the whole Requiem mass in my head in Latin. And that's a plain song chant kind of medium. And so I really think that's in my bones. And then, when I was at Pendle Hill and I was the artist in residence, and I didn't feel like I was doing much for the community, and I decided to maybe start a meeting for worship with attention to singing, and realized that I didn't want to have it be something that we were reading hymns out of a book, but because I felt like there's something that's a little bit distancing when we do that, and that there would be a different way of singing that would be more coming from the depths of us, and also with harmonies. So I picked out rounds to do, and started doing really simple songs and encouraging people to do harmonies. And we were doing that, I can't remember if it was before or after meeting for worship on Sundays, but that really was one of my first instincts, that there was a way to bring song to Quakers that was more embodied and more in line with meeting for worship. Because sometimes when we sing together as a group, I don't know how it is when you all get together, but you're kind of antsy to say, let's do number so-and-so, and I want to get my song in, okay, and there's a little bit of a sense of urgency and that you get your song in, and I wanted it different, and I felt like it worked. But then in meeting Cynthia Bourgeot, this incredible, raise your hand if you've heard of her, even if you even know who she is. Oh wow, fair amount. She's a Christian, a contemplative Christian. She's a preordained Episcopalian priest, a prolific writer, and also leads retreats and wisdom schools, not just in this country, but in other countries. And she's got a great following. She's really opening up, I think, Christianity, along with Richard Rohr and others. She was on Richard Rohr's School of Living School. And I sent her the first Quaker album when I was reading her book. In fact, my friend Ann Becker is here, who loaned me this book and said, you need to read it. It's called Wisdom Way of Knowing. And I was reading it and thought, this is just what early Quakers thought. This is really so similar to what early Friends were saying. And so I sent her the first album, even before it was published, but it was all recorded. And she wrote back right away and said, I want to work with you. Like she said, I want you to do these songs. And
because she actually had Quaker experience in her background as well, and sometimes describes herself as a offline Quaker.
Yeah,
she recognized it.
She went to Quaker schools growing up. And I didn't know that at all at the time. But anyway, she eventually invited me to lead some of these Quaker chants at her wisdom school. And the first one I went to with her, there were 200 people there, and they had musicians too, and they were playing along with some of these Quaker quotes that I'd made up, and it was so powerful to have all these people chanting over and over before we did meditation. So it was often the chanting would lead into the meditation. And that's what really got me thinking, you know, Quakers could do this too. We could chant before we go into a meeting for worship. And so that was a big influence.
So talk to us about what you think happens. You've got some slides to tell about what are the benefits of chanting?
Yeah, why chant? First of all, I want to say that, and I only learned this past year, the vagus nerve runs through behind your throat or behind up there somewhere, and singing vibrates it. So I just want to put in a word for that because the vibration of that vagus nerve helps with inflammation and also other things too. So it really is, singing really is a healing practice. And there's lots of other benefits like that, physical benefits to healing. I've now led chanting groups in Cincinnati, and people saying they don't feel well and they're probably not going to stay, and they end up staying, and they end up telling me later they got completely healed through the chanting. So it's a healing mechanism. But let's look and see what some other people have said about it. So we chant to join our voices to the voices of countless seekers, worshipers, mystics, and lovers of life in every time and every place who have shared in sacred song. I think that's from Robert Guess. That is so true. All these different religions in their beginnings had chanting. It's a really ancient practice. Yeah. And chanting draws our focus to the present and calms the dualistic mind. I think that's a Richard Orr quote. And the very physical act of breathing and forming sounds brings body and mind together. I'll say something about the left and right brain also. When you just listen to music, you're going mostly with the right brain, right? When you add words and put words with music, you've got right and left brain working together. And it occurred to me that, well, how do we teach the ABCs to children? ABC, we combine them. And so anything that you can put to music will help you internalize it more and memorize it. Chant is vocal meditation. Chant is the breath made audible in tone. And chant is discovering spirit in sound. And this is from Cynthia. As you give yourself to the words you are chanting, their spiritual power comes alive in you. Another one from Cynthia. To make music, you must engage those three core elements out of which the earth was fashioned and through which all spiritual transformation happens: breath, vibration, and intention. Those three things. And this is Thomas Kelly. We sing, and yet not we, but the eternal sings in us. The song is put into our mouths, for the singer of all songs is singing within us. It is not we that sing, it is the eternal song of the other who sings in us, who sings unto us and through us into the world. And that's an outpouring spirit.
Okay, but we're Quakers. We don't just listen to what other people tell us chants would do. We're going to try it ourselves, right? And we're going to find out what our experience with it is. So Paulette's going to teach us another one here at this present time. And while you sing it, I want you to pay attention to what does happen for you. Is this all malarkey? Or does some part of you feel like it's integrating you or bringing you back to the present moment, or
whatever.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
The last one, Sufis say the chant is the bridge between sound and silence. Yeah.
Jumped the gun, sorry, I can't see
I
it.
do.
All right, so,
So yeah, really pay attention to your body if you can while we're doing this. Make sure your feet are on the floor, you're getting that good energy up. And yeah, just kind of notice, sometimes when I do this repetitive singing, I try to, like when I meditate, I try to get rid of thoughts and focus on my third eye and just try to really get into the flow of it. This is a George Fox quote. Ye have no time but this present time. Ye have no time but this present time. Ye have no time but this present time. Therefore prize your time for your soul's sake. Let me raise it a little bit for those sopranos in the group. Okay. Ye have no time but this present time. Ye have no time but this present time. Ye have no time but this present time. Therefore prize your time for your soul's sake. Ye have no time but this present time. Ye have no time but this present time. Ye have no time but this present time. Therefore prize your time for your soul's sake. In harmony is welcome. Ye have no time but this present time. Ye have no time but this present time. Ye have no time but this present time. Therefore prize your time for your soul's sake. Ye have no time but this present time. Ye have no time but this present time. Ye have no time but this present time. Therefore prize your time for your soul's sake. Ye have no time but this present time. Ye have no time but this present time. Ye have no time but this present time. Therefore prize your time for your soul's sake.
okay, so turn to somebody next to you, just pair up informally and talk about what did or didn't seem true to you about that experience of chanting.
Did you
We're gonna-
notice anything in your body?
We're going to give you about 2 minutes each. I'll tell you when the 2 minutes is up to switch.
Okay, wrap up that thought. So we were really torn when we got at this part in our planning. We want to, of course, hear what you all said to each other. But we decided we'd be here much of the night and we want to do more chanting. So, so find us at the lunch table tomorrow and tell us whatever you said last night. And in the meantime, we're going to do it ourselves here. So Paulette, what happens in your body when you chant?
I noticed that there's kind of an echoing, a reverberation in my body. But I have to really specifically look for it. I don't just automatically feel it. But that's what happens right afterwards, is I notice that the words are reverberating, almost like in a physical kind of way.
What I noticed is the thing that somebody said in one of the quotes about it brings you right down to the present moment. Like I'm not planning or regretting or rewriting. If I'm chanting, I'm right here. And the other one is what I said at the beginning, which is I don't know where they get stored, but they're accessible to me. I really remember them, so they're in my body somewhere.
Yeah, that's true for me too. That chanting, it's just amazing how a situation has nothing to do with Quaker meeting or religion or anything spiritual, and suddenly a chant will come up in my life that just fits what I need right then. So it's a way that they do get embodied. Yeah. So
Right.
we're
Here's
gonna
another
move
one.
on. We're gonna do one by Isaac Pennington, and this is another long one. So not really, it's chant-like. I call them chant songs.
So you're
it's
gonna
a
do this
solo,
one.
yeah. And if you don't know, Isaac Pennington was one of the more mystical early Quakers, and he offered this beautiful text for how to go deep and how to. It reflects his own experience of emptying and letting go of one's own will in order to, in that emptying, to be filled then. And Cynthia Bourgeois has a saying that kenosis fills, and she calls Quakerism the kenotic spirituality, because it's an emptying practice that allows for filling. So it goes, sing it with me if you know it. Give over thine own willing, give over thine own running, and give over thine own desiring to know or be anything, and sink down to the seed which God sows in thy heart, and let that be in thee, and breathe, grow in thee, and breathe in thee, and act in thee, and thou shalt find by sweet experience that the Lord knows that, and loves and owns that, and will lead it to the inheritance of life, which is God's portion. Give over thine own willing, give over thine own running, give over thine own desiring to know or be anything, and sink down to the seed that God sows in thy heart, and let that be in thee, and grow in thee, and breathe in thee, and act in thee, and thou shalt find by sweet experience that the Lord knows that, and loves and owns that, and will lead it to the inheritance of life, which is God's portion. And I learned from Marcel Martin that portion in this text, the portion has to do with your part of the inheritance, and God's portion is your portion.
Thanks. So far we've been exploring a lot of wisdom, Quaker wisdom, about how to empty ourselves, how to go deep, how to experience that inflowing of spirit. So it's about time to turn to the theme of the gathering and ask, so how does outflowing work then? And we found when we started trying to categorize these that a number of Paulette's chants are stories that come from people whose stories are about living testimonies, about being in the outside world what aligns with the inner knowing that has come to them in the inflowing. So tell us about the first one.
Okay, William Robinson. Raise your hand if you know who William Robinson is. Okay, good. So William Robinson was one of the Quakers who was hung in Boston Commons because he,
Along with Mary Dyer.
And two others whose names I'm forgetting in the moment, I'm sorry to say. But yeah, they were deliberately going back into the colony of Massachusetts when they were told that Quakers can come in, and they just did it again, and they were warned, and they did it again, and so William Robinson and two others were hung, and Mary Dyer later. But so William Robinson wrote a letter to his Quaker friends and his family, and this is a quote from that letter as he was getting ready to be executed. It was to reassure them. The streams of my Father's love run daily through me. The streams of my Father's love run daily through me. From the holy fountain of life to the sea throughout the whole creation. I took the liberty of alternating father with mother just because of who I am. And I realized that early Quakers also often mixed up the genders for the divine. Sarah Blackborough refers to the womb and to she, and so I'm not completely off here. So, and this is one I'd like for you all to sing along too. So let's maybe I think we can get it all at once. I can tell you all are good singing crowd. So we'll just go through it a couple times. Join in when you feel ready. Harmony again is always welcome if you feel like it. Streams of my Father's love run daily through me. The streams of my mother's love run daily through me. From the holy fountain of mine to the sea throughout the whole creation. The streams of my Father's love run daily through me. Streams of my mother's love run daily through me. From the holy fountain of life to the sea throughout the whole creation. The streams of my Father's love run daily through me. The streams of my mother's love run daily through me. From the holy fountain of life to the sea throughout the whole creation. The streams of my Father's love run daily through me. The streams of my mother's love run daily through me. From the holy fountain of life to the sea throughout the whole creation. The streams of my Father's love run daily through me. The streams of my mother's love run daily through me. From the holy fountain of life to the sea throughout the whole creation.
So it's one thing to have that sense of it flowing through you, but when you give us the context of knowing that he was on the verge of walking to his execution, and he was still feeling that the streams of God's love were flowing through him so that his life in the world was what he was supposed to do, I think that's pretty extraordinary.
Yeah, and I love that notion of the seed spread through the whole creation, you know, that incarnation is not just with us humans here on this planet, but also the animals and all the other planets out in the cosmos. I love that quote.
Thank you. You have another one for us?
Well, yeah, I have a feeling more of you probably know who Mary Fisher was. Can you raise your hands if you've heard of Mary Fisher? Yeah. So Mary is the one who had a leading to go talk to the Sultan of Turkey, and had another woman friend go with her at first, and then along the way that woman dropped back, and at some point they got kicked off the ship. It was just a horrendous journey, and I think she ended up actually walking a long distance at the end to get to where the Sultan was. And everybody warned her before she left. You know, the Turkish people were not known in England as anybody but would cut your heads off, and there's a lot of discrimination amongst British folk back then about Turkish people, but she was determined that this was her leading to go, and she did. And when she came back, you know, I don't think she ever really said what she told the Sultan of Turkey, like what was the message. What she brought back with her was how much she loved the Turkish people and how kind they had been to her. And she said they were the kindest people that she'd ever met. And so, you know, we never know what the leading is going to lead us to, but she certainly, I think, changed a lot of people's minds about Turkish people after that journey that she took. So we're going to sing one together, a quote from her that's real easy, real short, and you'll pick it up immediately. It goes like this. This is what she said when she got back. There is a love begotten me, which is endless. There is a love begotten me, which is endless. There is a love begotten me, which is endless. It's real easy to harmonize too. There is a love begotten me, which is endless. There is a love begotten me, which is endless. There is a love begotten me, which is endless. There is a love begotten me, which is endless. One more time. There is a love begotten me, which is endless.
Lovely. Thank you. Thank you all. I know that you and I talked, and I'm sure you want to share with them, that while you're writing this and getting to know Mary Fisher's life and what we can learn from her, it is also true, and she's a good example of the fact that however transformed our lives can be, we're still complex, whole, flawed people.
And Mary Fisher certainly had to have a blind spot, because I learned actually from Lucy Duncan, that maybe some of you have read some of her writings about racism, in the history of that in Quakerdom, that she was later part of the large settlement of Quakers in Barbados. And Barbados was the center for the slave trade, with all these Quakers there participating in it. And I gathered from what Lucy wrote that Mary Fisher was part of that. So it's stunning to think that somebody that would overcome that prejudice with Turkish people would not get it. Yeah, really. Yeah, so that she wouldn't see the evil of participating in such dehumanization as the slave trade. So, you know, and I've been challenged whether or not to sing these quotes from people like William Penn, who Penn also engaged in the slave business. He had 12 people enslaved on his home in Philadelphia, outside of Philadelphia. But I choose to still share the words of these early friends that I think came from that part of them that manifested the truth. And so I don't feel like I have to cancel culture and just totally wipe them out of our history, because probably all of us would be written out of history, out of something that we haven't done to stop climate change, for instance, you know. So I just think that it's important to recognize the contradictions and also to sing that part of them that knew the truth.
After thou seest thyself, then mercy comes in. Paulette, I think we should skip to Who Is It That Dare?
Oh, but it's so short.
Yeah, but we have 4 more we want to sing.
Yeah, well, B Patterns is very long. So let me just sing it one time.
Yeah, please.
Okay, this is early Quaker testimony, the outpouring of spirit that George Fox said this: "And may not the Spirit of Christ speak in the female as well as in the male? Who is it that dare limit the Holy One of Israel? For For the light is the same in the male and in the female, and it cometh from Christ. And who is it that dares stop Christ now?
Paulette confessed to me while we practiced this that she has to keep herself, hold herself back from sounding too strident.
Great.
Yeah, I didn't hold myself back too much there.
So another thing that I know drew you to Quakers was realizing that they were not so much rule-oriented, but driven by this internal inpouring that then manifested itself out in the outward way. And I love it that you have a song from Pennington about that.
Yeah, and I think that, that apocryphal story about William Penn is a good example of it, where he says, is there a rule? Do I have to not wear my sword anymore? And Fox said, wear it as long as thou canst. Maybe apocryphal, but I think it's really, significant and symptomatic of what early Quakers believed, that they really thought that if you centered enough, the light would come and show you what was out of the light. So I love that idea, because we've heard it. I grew up hearing, "Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself," and it was kind of like, you must love. And to have it come organically, that's in connection with the divine, and flowing through you, that's so much more authentic. Yeah. So this is another Pennington quote. It goes like this. Our life is love, our life is peace, our life is tenderness, and bearing with each other, and forgiving one another, and not letting accusations one against the other, but praying for each other, and helping each other up with a tender hand. Our life is love, our life is peace, our life is tenderness, and bearing with each other, and forgiving one another, and not laying accusations one against the other, but praying for each other, and helping each other up with a tender hand. One more time. Our life is love, our life is peace, our life is tenderness, and bearing with each other, and forgiving one another, and not laying accusations one against the other, but praying for each other, and helping each other up with a tender hand.
So as our lives become an outpouring of the spirit we've experienced inwardly, it encompasses every aspect of our lives. As Pennington's telling us about some of the things we do, but there's also things where we call into question and really wonder about. And you've got a Woolman quote for that.
Yeah. John Woolman, when I read his journal, I was just blown away by how much conscience he had and how much consciousness he had of the harm being done to the whales, to the trees, to the horses, to people. He just was so aware. And so I love this quotation from him. Maybe you've heard this one before. It's kind of gotten around the Quaker world is around. And so can you see a show of hands of how many know it? Because we could sing it around. Not quite enough. Okay. So it goes like this. I'll sing it once all the way through. May we look upon our treasure, our furniture and our garments. May we look upon our treasure, our furniture and our garments, and try to discover whether the seeds of war are nourished by these our possessions. I think I'll break it up, so we'll sing the first part and repeat that, and then we'll go to the second part. May we look upon our treasure, our furniture and our garments. May we look upon our treasure, our furniture and our garments. Back to the beginning. May we look upon our treasure, our furniture and our garments. May we look upon our treasure, our furniture and our garments, and try to discover whether the seeds of war, and try to discover whether the seeds of war, one more time, and try to discover whether the seeds of war are nourished by these our possessions, are nourished by these our possessions. May we look upon our treasure, our furniture and our garments. May we look upon our treasure, our furniture and our garments, and try to discover whether the seeds of war are nourished by these our possessions. May we look upon our treasure, our furniture and our garments. May we look upon our treasure, our furniture and our garments, and try to discover whether the seeds of war are nourished by these our possessions. Okay, I went rogue. I couldn't help trying it around. That was good.
So, shall we end with Hold Fast the Hope?
Yeah, this is a George Fox quotation, and actually I mentioned it today at lunch, I think, that we were talking about how easy it is to fall into despair these days, and we all know that. But it was a despairing time for Quakers too, with all the Civil War going on, the burning of London, diseases, smallpox, just all the fighting, all the brutality that they experienced. And this was from a epistle, I think, that Fox wrote to friends. Hold fast the hope that anchors the soul, which is sure and steadfast, that you may float above the world sea. Hold fast the hope that anchors the soul, which is sure and steadfast, that you may float above the world sea. Hold fast the hope that anchors the soul, which anchors the soul, which is sure and steadfast, that you may float above the world's sea. Hold fast the hope that anchors the soul, which is sure and steadfast, that you may float above the world's sea.
Paulette and I thought that we would end with that because it is our hope that these words, among others, will sink deep in you through the medium of chant, that you can hold fast the hope that is steadfast and rise above the world's sea. Paulette has some of her CDs along, and they're in the bookstore that Matilda's got organized across the hall. Valerie. Valerie's got organized across the hall. Thank you. We encourage you to take a look. And if you haven't started to let them sink in, try it in your car. I think it's a really good idea.
And also the Timeless Quaker Wisdom and Plain song, that was the first one. If you have a disk drive, you can put that into the CD into the disk drive and put it in your computer. When it opens up, you'll see not just the audio tracks, but also a 35-page PDF booklet that I wrote that has all these, it has the information about the writers of these quotes. It has all the biblical sayings that the Quakers used biblical words all the time. And I didn't know the Bible enough to even know that, but I got
Educated.
Yes, I got educated. There it is. Yes, that's on the disc, and so you can print it out. And it also has every song notated. So if you're somebody that reads music, you can get the music for it. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much for bringing us your gift, Paulette.
Thank you for inviting me. Really.
Wow. We didn't talk about your stage.